Niagara's Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT, is a group of volunteers trained and ready to provide support to the community in times of emergency. Grant Durfee and John Hoadley are here with us today. Grant, a group of CERT volunteers just started just last month, I guess it was, right?
Yeah, we just did a brand new intake, so we take groups of 50 in, so it's a large group of people that we push through. They get 8 evenings of training, so they have about 30 hours overall of training they go through online and in person. And they're about halfway through their training right now, where we cover everything from basic organization, team structure, to more advanced first aid, light urban search and rescue, all the way up to culminating in a large field exercise where they get to practice their skills out in the field with other more experienced team members.
I remember, I think it was in March, the call went out and you were looking for 100 new volunteers. Did you get the response that you expected?
We did. So both this year and last year, we went well above our expectations. We spend very little on advertising, but the Niagara community absolutely responded. We're taking the 50 that are going now. 50 are also starting in the fall, and we had over 200 applications for those 100 spots.
Well, we're going to meet a volunteer, John Hoadley. And John, you were one of the original volunteers for CERT. What prompted you to get involved?
I just sort of happened across the ad on the Region's website, and then I heard a story about it on the radio news on the way home. I've been involved with volunteering for over 10 years with other organizations, steady, and I thought this sounded interesting. It's something different from my regular 9-to-5 as a photographer, graphic designer type of guy. And I said, why not? It sounds interesting. What really caught my attention was I noticed in the ad it said food provided during training, right? And if anybody knows me, you know my personality. All it takes to get me anywhere is tell me there's free food and I'm
That's
there.
always a draw, right?
Right, exactly. And it sounded interesting, right? And it was directly for the region as well. And I was not disappointed.
Now, you had background with St. John's Ambulance in your volunteer activities. Is it typical, Grant, that most of your volunteers would have some kind of background like that or not?
It's a big mix, and that's what we want with the team. So we have some people where they do have, extensive volunteer histories, extensive histories with other emergency services, disaster relief organizations. We have a bunch who have no background in that. Some are recent retirees who are looking for new time, who had done business or teaching, and we want that viewpoint of different people from the community coming in and helping on our team. So you don't have to have that background. We are open to anyone who wants to help out.
John, what was the training like other than the food? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty about the training.
All right, the food itself is a whole other episode. We can come back and talk about that later. But the training itself did start off, well, after I passed through the interview phase. It was a Zoom interview. The training started off online. There was a lot of basic onboarding, as anyone involved with the Niagara region would have to go through. Just your basic stuff that pretty much any job onboards you with. But then there was specific training, which took place at the college. And there was training in some light urban search and rescue, practical training on how to use cribbing to remove a heavy object from a person trapped under. There was some basic sort of stop the bleed type first aid if you happen across someone with just a horrible wound that you just needed to stop it right away to save their life. There was also training on severe weather awareness as well as fire suppression, and that was both in class and practical exercises as well. So it was interesting every week.
Since you joined up, you were actually called into duty once, and that was during the snowstorm around Christmas time. Can you explain what happened then?
Sure, yeah. So it was actually a really good experience as my first deployment with CERT. The call went out via email, text, and phone. So the communication system we had for alerting CERT volunteers is pretty robust. There's a lot of redundancy there. And I had nothing to do, so it was still the holidays, right? And our services were requested at one of the warming centers, or the warming centers that were set up in Fort Erie and Port Colborne. And I was deployed to the Fort Erie center for a couple of shifts. I wasn't overly busy, which is good, I guess. But it was interesting to it was nice to actually just be there as the additional set of hands if Red Cross needed any kind of assistance, if St. John Ambulance needed any kind of assistance. I was just kind of there, wearing the uniform, representing CERT for I think four hours at a time. We switched out, but it wasn't chaotic and stressful.
Right.
But it was interesting, and it's always nice to be able to serve and say that you were able to serve and help out if needed.
And Grant, this is about being ready for emergencies, and hopefully we don't have to use CERT, right? And that's kind of the conundrum of this program. being ready but hoping not to have to use the volunteers.
Exactly. And this week, so the 7th to the 13th is Emergency Preparedness Week in Ontario, and that's what CERT is all about. It's about being prepared for those big emergencies before they happen. The last thing we want to happen at the region is a large disaster, and we're caught without the additional surge capacity that we need. So we want to have CERT up and running before we start seeing these more frequent big weather systems or what have you, and just so we're ready for whatever may happen to respond anywhere within the region.
There's another training session in the fall. Is that full with the 50 people?
Yes, so that was, so we did 50 now, 50 again in the fall, so that's already full. We're just in the process of arranging some more interviews with the last couple to sort of sign some of that off. But they'll be going through that exact same training, another 8 sessions beginning in September to get them ready to go and to assist the region.
Looking forward into next year, into 2024, will there be another intake in the spring?
Yeah, we're hoping so. So CERT over the last 2 years has been a pilot program with the region. So this year we're going forward to try to become a permanent part of Niagara Region Emergency Management. So as long as we can achieve that, we're looking forward to recruiting people next year and every year afterwards to help keep the team full, ready to go and up to skill with everything we need.
John, what would you tell other volunteers who might be considering putting their name forward for CERT?
I would definitely recommend it. We know people are busy, right? You got jobs. Sometimes it can be a lot of juggling to volunteer and work your job, and if you have family commitments on the side as well. I find the time commitment with CERT isn't overwhelming. So if you do have, you got your regular 9 to 5, and you don't have all the availability in the world, it's not overly time consuming. Right, some volunteer activities are more time consuming than others. I find CERT highly manageable. I haven't had any scheduling conflicts or issues, and I've been deployed once, on TV once, and on a podcast once. So if you need somebody to come on TV or do a podcast,
You're the guy.
let me know. If you
Perfect.
can't find anybody else on a Monday morning, chances are I'm available. So that's what I would recommend it highly for anyone who's looking to serve their community. Go through some interesting training, do something maybe different than they're used to in their regular 9 to 5. And I will restate, the food provided during training was excellent.
Excellent food.
Niagara College does a great job.
John, Grant, thanks so
Sign
much
off.
for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.